And let's get started so we can get ahead of what is sure to be a great presentation from Dr. Kang with us today. I'm the program manager at the National Committee on North Korea, and I'll be your moderator for today's discussion. If you as an audience member have a question, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen, and later on in this webinar, we'll answer as many questions from the audience as possible. For those of you new to our organization, NCNK is an NGO working to promote peace and security on the Korean peninsula and improve the lives of the North Korean people. We are so pleased to have with us today Dr. Sahie Kang, Director of the School of Korean at Middlebury College since 2014. Prior to Middlebury, she served as the Dean of Arabic, Korean, and Multi-Language Schools at DLI, the Defense Language Institute, from 2002 to 2015. She also served as the president of the American Association of Teachers of Korean from 2015 to 2018, and was the founding chair of Korean Special Interest Group at ACTFL, where she has been an OPI tester and a workshop facilitator since 2002. She's conducted numerous workshops on assessment and pedagogy for major universities in the U.S.A. and Korea. Her most recent publication was titled Integrated Performance Assessment and KSL, from the Routledge Handbook of Korean as a Second Language in 2022, and a recent presentation named Korean Wave for Engagement and Empowerment Beyond Language and Culture at the Global Engagement and Empowerment Forum at U.S.A. University, also in 2022. A note of housekeeping here, please do not take any screenshots of the presentation. Thank you for your cooperation. And again, this will be recorded, so just a heads up for everyone in our audience today. We're so grateful to have you with us, Dr. Kang. I hope your summer's going well so far, particularly at Middlebury. And with that, I'd like to hand the mic over to you so we can get started and get into what you have to share with us today. Take it away. Let me share my screen.
Okay. Thank you, Seth, or Mr. Joyner, for inviting me. This is really my great honor and pleasure to work with National Committee on North Korea on this webinar. And yeah, the topic is regarding the language barriers in the two Koreas, meaning North and South Koreas. And many people who knows Korean language might think that there are big language barriers, or at least language differences between these two areas. So we'll explore that and we'll see what the conclusion would be. So yeah, what barriers? Some, I would say some Korean language scholars, Korean linguists, might claim that actually there are many language barriers, because generally speaking, the difference between South Korean language and North Korean language, meaning based on Seoul and Pyongyang, are not very big, not very large, and they are generally believed to be mutually comprehensible, of course. And they are supposed to be quite intonation-less language. So the both so-called standard languages are pretty similar, actually. Actually, basically, Korean language is the one language, I would say. But as you can imagine, because of the 70 years of separation, division, two versions of this language have changed into the different directions. We are going to talk about those details later. So as a linguist, are these really linguistic differences or sociocultural differences? I would say, as you can see in the title in this page, of course, both we can explore and see how how much real differences are there and what kind of barriers they cause. So before talking about those barriers or differences, probably I need to give you a little probably definition or of what Korean language means. So in South Korea, we call Korean language as Standard Korean, 표준어. And in North Korea, they call it 조선말, 문하어. So 문하어 means cultured language, interesting language name. But basically Standard Korean, the 표준어, was announced in 1933 by Joseon Language Association, 조선어학회. It was still Japanese ruling time. And at that time, Korean language scholars were very active in order to fight against Japanese ruling policy of abolishing Korean language completely at that time. And in 1988, the National Korean Language Institute in Korea revised this version of the Korean orthography rule, which was announced with that Standard Korean language in 1933. So we are following this Korean orthography rule, which was revised in 1988 at this moment. Cultured language, this very interesting name is given by Kim Il-sung in North Korea. Kim Il-sung definitely has a separate country or state. He wanted to separate North Korea's language from South Korea's standard language, of course. So he claimed that North Korean standard language is based on Pyongyang language. And he added 4,000 words of regional dialects from many different provinces in North Korea. But again, these are all artificial efforts. So actually, I don't think all general people are following all these rules, but at least he named this language, the standard language of North Korea, cultured language, and people often call it 조선말. So it was announced in 1966. So there are two versions of Korean language, obviously, officially, and by the government's claim. So how do they see language then in each part? Definitely South Korea, as many other democratic and capitalist country, Korean language is a tool for communication, definitely. However, North Korea has looks at it a little differently. Of course, they use it for communication, but it is a tool for establishment of their 주체 ideology, and also it is the tool for all kinds of ideological propaganda, of course. And definitely language changes naturally. Any kind of language is changed naturally. So 70 years of separation with rare communication. Actually, there are many communications done between these two Koreas, except for few occasions when they were really captured by news here and there. Other than that, no communication between common people. So that results in natural language change into very different directions, I would say. And these ideological differences has also influenced the language change a lot, especially the lexicon in both sides are really different. So South Korean, especially the so-called loan words, or borrowed words from foreign countries are quite different. South Korean definitely borrowed a lot of the words from English and also other Western languages. And also Japanese and probably some Chinese words, and Korean, South Koreans are not really hesitant to accept many other foreign language words in their daily lives. Whereas North Korean loan words are mostly from Russia. So this one example, the truck which carries all these whatever the things and many things is truck in Korea from English. In Russia, it's called traktoru. This is probably from Russian. I don't know Russian very much, so yeah, I'm sure it is the sound of Russian language. Yeah, so definitely ideologically charged language is very visible in North Korean language. And so I'm going to go over all kinds of linguistic differences. And basically the pronunciation and intonation, they are very obvious when people speak. Some vowel changes between South and North Korea. I'm not going to talk about all these details because it is worth of one semester course. So I'm not going to say all of them. But a few things like I put palatalization in the third bullet, which is quite, I would say, language universal feature. So many different languages have this palatalization. Something like in English, when you read did you, when you say did you wouldn't say did you probably you would say did you. So that's palatalization. So Korean, South Korean language has that naturally, whereas North Korean language, interestingly, refuse that. So something like 같이 becomes 같이 in Korean, but in North Korea, they just maintain this T sound there, 같이, 가지요, 가디요, something like that. So again, intonation differences are, as I mentioned, between Seoul Korean and also Pyongyang Korean. There aren't many big changes, differences in intonation, but when you watch the North Korean media, it is obvious that they use this dramatic pronunciation or voice to show their emotional attachment to the topic that they are talking about.
실험 소식을 보도했던 조선중앙TV의 리춘희 아나운서는 올해 73살의 나이에도 현역에서 활약해 눈길을 끌고 있습니다. 리춘희는 김일성부터 김정은까지 3대째 최고 지도자와 관련된 보도를 하거나 중요한 발표를 전담해 오고 있습니다. 백나리 기자입니다.
북한의 4차 핵실험은 북한 아나운서들의 대목격인 73살 리춘희의 입을 통해 전달됐습니다.
조선민주주의인민공화국 정부 성명. 첫째 조선의 첫 수소탄 시험 완전 성공.
2011년 12월 김정일 국방위원장이 사망했을 때 검은 상복을 입고 나와 흐느끼며 부고를 전해 눈길을 끌었던 리춘희.
김정일 동지께서 급병으로 소거하셨다는 것을 가장 비통한 심정으로 알린다.
That you can stop it here.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you listening for there, Dr. Kang?
Actually, I didn't really expect everyone understands what they were saying, but I wanted you to listen to the intonation or the voice control there. So obviously, it is a clip of a South Korean news where they featured North Korean announcer or anchor woman. So the first man was, well, can you guess who that was? Is he North Korean or South Korean?
Right. virtual hands everywhere. I would say South Korean. Yeah.
Yes, yes. He is a South Korean person and speaks at least without much emotion, I would say. But the second lady with only voice, without the face, second lady was a reporter of South Korean, and she also explained who Lee Chun-hee is, who is a very well-known North Korean announcer. And it turned into the North Korean announcer. And what did you hear there? Did you hear any intonation change?
Oh, definitely. And I was wondering if it was, I wouldn't say a natural aspect of North Korean, or was it a habit that became famous and then stuck kind of thing? That kind of I don't know.
I would say it's not natural, definitely. It's more close to the second part, the latter one that you mentioned. Again, unfortunately, the language sources of North Korea is generally media sources. We don't have real natural language samples from many North Korean people because of the isolation. So media generally, the news programs capture this very dramatic intonation to show their attachment or their loyalty toward the person they are talking about, or towards their country. So this news of this news captured there is about North Korea's I think successful launch of the what is the satellite, not the missile, but many people suspect that it's a missile anyway. Anyway, they successfully launched this satellite, and this Lee Chun-hee, the announcer, was very excited, and she just puts real strong enunciation as well as the raising the tone at the end. She didn't even make the complete sentences there. She just ended 2 sentences by noun, which is very not usual in the newscast. So when you compare this lady's intonation with South Korean anchorman's pronunciation, you can definitely see the intonation differences. But again, that's not normal. I also interacted with North Korean defectors before, and in normal situation, daily conversations, their intonation is very similar to mine, actually. I am from Seoul, and very similar. Yes. So now this is a test for you. Yeah, I put on the second and fourth column, these are all North Korean words. I'm sure that many of you are not really familiar with North Korean words, so I put North Korean words there, 문하어. And the first and third column, these are South Korean 표준어, standard language. So can you guess what these words are in South Korean standard language? We don't need to do everything, but what about number 7, 동무? What is that? 동무.
I can think of the hanja behind some of these words.
Yes.
And I can make a guess, but I will not make a guess on recording.
Yes. So what about number 26? 색안경, 색안경, 안경?
Oh, colored glasses. So sunglasses?
Great, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, next slide, please. You can see all these answers in the next slide. Yes. So now you see that 동무 is actually 친구. 동무 is still a South Korean word, word, but 동무 is used for comrade in communist countries.
Hung
So
as in hung, same.
yeah, right, same, right. So
Hung.
South Koreans avoid using 동무 nowadays, and they would rather say 친구. And sunglass, very good answer. Yes, 색안경. Well, it shows that North Koreans actually maintained Korea's native words a lot. That's somewhat good thing for many Korean linguists, honestly. And when you see this slide, I highlighted almost like half of the words, South Korean words, in red, because these are all from English. And they are just commonly used Korean words in Korea. Yes. For example, right next to sunglass on the left side, 가락지빵 is North Korean word, and it's donuts. We say donuts, of course.
Yeah.
And the 손전화, can you find it on the, yes.
Yep, right there.
손전화 is 핸드폰 in Korea, 핸드폰. 핸드폰 is not from English, but it's not an English word, of course. 핸드폰 is Korean-made English word for cell phone. Yes. So Koreans use a lot of these English words in daily lives, and there's no substituted Korean words for many of these English words. Yes, but definitely they are Koreanized English words because they don't pronounce them as in English. They are pronounced in Korean way. So lexicon has the largest differences among all linguistic features. So here, additional lexicon examples are here, but due to the time restriction, I'm not going to go over everything. Even orthographical rules and some syntactic rules are different between South and North Korean language. North Koreans don't even use quotation marks. They have these special kinds of parentheses for quotation mark. And also spacing is different. Between words, South Koreans put space all the time, and it started in 1933. Before 1933, Koreans didn't use spacing. In old Korean writing, spacing was not there. And also comma, period, these are all introduced in 1933 when the 조선어학회 announced the Korean orthography rule. I'm not sure whether you have noticed the sequence of consonant and vowels in dictionary are different between South and North. Yeah, the upper part is South Koreans, lower part is North Koreans. So North Koreans put 기역, 니은, 디귿, until here, then 쌍기역, and until, what is that? Yeah, 이응 is accidentally added there. Oh, accidentally, no. 이응 is somewhat left out, and it's at the end. That's a little bit strange. In South Korean dictionary, the sequence of consonant, 기역, 니은, 디귿, 리을, 미음, 비읍, until here are there, but in between, the 쌍기역 are all inserted there.
Why the difference, do you think, in the order of the dictionary? Something that's seemingly so smaller. Why change the order, right?
Well, because when North Korea and South Korea determined these orders, they never really discussed with each other. And probably it was just one or two people's opinions. But again, both of them, I would say, have their own rationale, I believe. So honestly, I don't mind. I'm quite familiar with South Korean way, but when I look at the North Korean sequence, they made sense to me too. There are reasons for that. So it's interesting, but again, when you go to North Korea, follow this sequence. When you look for North Korean words in the dictionary, probably.
Good to know.
Yeah, but you don't need to secretly, of course. And yeah, and then syntactic differences are there, but they are not really that great. And also, even if these syntactic differences are stated in front of South Koreans and in front of North Koreans in different ways, they are just mutually understandable. So it's not a big deal. So far we've seen the linguistic features that are different between South and North Korea, from phonological features to probably orthography and syntactic features. Well, linguists probably would compare discourse structures between two countries, but I would say there are many research done on the analysis of language beyond the sentence level or paragraph level yet. So I couldn't find any data on that. But anyway, all kinds of linguistic differences you just saw. So I think many linguists are really started worrying about this, diversified language or even lexicon between two countries. And in order to prepare for the unification of the country, many believe that it's better to start putting efforts on the unification of the language. So actually, South Korean government and North Korean government with this institutions, National Institute of Korean Language, 국립국어원, and Academy of Social Sciences, 사회과학원, they put efforts to do a lot of collaboration in terms of the exchanging data, language data, and investigation of regional dialects in both sides. And they had annual meeting between 1996 and 2007. Every year they met either in Beijing, and I remember that once or twice they had this conference in Pyongyang and in Seoul too. But unfortunately that effort stopped after 2007 for many political reasons, of course. And then another effort the linguists are putting is in support of government, the South Korean government. They try to publicate big dictionary of the nation. It's called 결의말 큰사전. The project started 2005, and they wanted to include at least 300,000 words of North Korea as well as South Korea. And this is a 44 million won project where it's a very expensive project and also long project, but it's not completed yet for many different reasons. But actually there are these kind of efforts to have a unified Korean language between two countries. So because we talked about linguistic differences, and also I told you that these linguistic differences, many people even don't care too much. Many general common people don't care too much in Korean Peninsula, especially because those are not really obstacles for them to understand each other, comprehend each other's language. And I would say sociolinguistic or sociocultural differences might be even more big obstacle for many people nowadays, especially because South Korea has almost 35,000 North Korean defectors residing in South Korea nowadays. For the last, I think, almost 2 decades, North Koreans defected to South Korea, and the first thing they do in South Korea in support of South Korean government is they get the training to cope with the new environment. And one of the training programs is that they learn South Korean language. These North Korean defectors are interacting with South Koreans, and definitely these communication breakdowns or barriers are happening there, and data are already collected. And then, so unfortunately, we cannot really collect language data from real North Koreans. Current North Koreans. So it's good that these North Korean defectors can provide language resources, even though some of them have been in South Korea quite a long time, but I think there are many new arrivals there too. So I'm going to show you some of the examples of what kind of language barriers they showed during their stay there. So what kinds of actual sociocultural and sociolinguistic differences are there? Well, these are probably based on people's perceptions, not based on real scientific investigation or anything like that, but based on the survey. But generally, people consider that North Koreans are using very aggressive tones and vulgar language in public speech. And constantly North Korean leaders, the Kim family, not only Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-un's sister, also made public speech accusing South Korean presidents and even U.S. president by calling names. Yeah. And I think some of them are really well known. And one time, the sister of Kim Jong-un called South Korean, former South Korean president.
Lovely words.
Yeah. And actually, it's not that pretty word. It's 삶은 소대가리. It means boiled. What is the boiled cow head or something like that? And
creative.
Yes, very creative. Exactly. I felt that, oh my, they are very creative in creating these cursing words. Yes.
What about the influence of K-dramas? Definitely the Hallyu wave is taking over.
Yes, exactly.
The use of South Korean words in the North.
Yes. But once they are discovered, once North Koreans are discovered to use South Korean language, they will be punished or executed.
Yeah.
But they take risk, and a lot of North Koreans are watching South Korean so-called K-dramas and news and many other programs. And many of them defected North Korea, actually. Recently, I had a conversation with my bilinguals, and we were talking about the culture shock and language differences between countries, but we started discussing the language differences between East Coast and West Coast in America. And it was interesting. All three bilinguals are all from East Coast, and two of them are from Boston and Rhode Island areas. And they said, in fact, when they went to California for the first time, they were very surprised because Californians never say anything straightforwardly. They were very indirect. So they didn't quite get what they are trying to say. So it's similar, I think, very interesting. Yeah. So East Coast people are like North Koreans, whereas Californians are like South Koreans.
We won't quote you on that, Dr. Kang.
Yeah. And also, I think I mentioned it briefly, North Korean speech is somewhat aggressive to South Koreans. For example, 일 없습니다 is like 괜찮아요 in South Korean language. So when someone thanks you for some kind of efforts or anything, then the person will answer with 일 없습니다. So 감사합니다, someone says that, and the other person will say, oh, 일 없습니다. But when Koreans and South Koreans listen to it, it sounds like literally, it sounds like no work. Could be, it could be none of your business. One time I tried to understand why it is so offensive to some South Koreans. I realized that literally it means none of your business.
Yeah.
So it's very offensive or even aggressive. But North Korean defector once told me that it is more like 괜찮아요. But I don't know. It's yeah. Anyway, North Koreans also perceive South Koreans give too many what you call the empty promises, or what you call the idle talk.
White
they,
lies and empty promises.
yeah, they say something, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just very common greeting words, like many Koreans, when they depart with each other, 밥 한 번 먹어요. Let's have dinner together once. But it means anything. And so people are waiting for the call from that person, but never calls back. So it's interesting that a lot of foreigners experience the same thing in Korea. Actually, 나중에 연락할게, I will call you later. Again, the person would never call you, but the other person, when listen to this, are waiting, but it was kind of indirect refusal to meet again for the person who said that. But the one who listened to that never understood it was a refusal, rather the person is waiting for the call. So yeah, it's very interesting that North Koreans many times complain that South Koreans give too many empty promises. And definitely South Koreans' use of English words are really obstacle for North Korean defectors to live in Korea. English is necessary in that society, and North Koreans have real hard time to survive without English there. Yeah, and North Koreans use honorifics to only Kim family. And one time when I had when I met with a couple of North Koreans about a decade ago in Korea to collect language data, I was really surprised that the man at the time they are not a married couple, but the man was about 50s, in his early 50s, and the woman was early 60s. And the man was using 반말 to this lady all the time. I was surprised, never showed any respect. That's what I perceived. So that's quite different. And speech acts such as apology, thank, compliment, refusal, request, these are really different between two countries, meaning that South Koreans perceive North Koreans lacking lacking the way to thank the people, thank to the people who did some favors to them, where North Koreans are not good at complimenting others, but they are very direct in refusing some suggestions or things like that. So it's very interesting. So this is the kind of summary, but next slide will show some of the actual data. Yeah, actually these actual data are from the Korean government's research project in 2016. Few years ago, they did a survey among South Koreans as well as 305 North Korean defectors. And the first table actually shows the feelings towards each other's language. And can you go back to the slide?
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So generally, South Korean language is perceived as calm, soft, sophisticated, good to listen to by North Korean defectors as well as South Korean themselves. Whereas South Korean people and also North Korean defectors feel that North Korean language is strong, foreign or unfamiliar, but pure Korean language are many languages maintained there. Yeah, it's interesting that the people who contacted North Korean people and who interacted North Korean people think that their language or conversation with North Koreans are well understood by North Korean defectors, whereas North Korean defectors believe that what they are saying is not really that well understood by South Koreans. So you can see the percentages. That's about 15% lower. So that's very interesting. These are just perceptions, but it's interesting. And actually, there are many cases of misunderstanding between South and North Korean defectors. And so these are examples when they were embarrassed or felt misunderstood. So the other person whom they talked to got upset when I gave very honest opinion or expression. These kind of things, I translate them here all. So interestingly, the biggest difference between South Koreans, the green is all South Koreans' opinions, and the orange is North Koreans' opinions. And South Koreans, the highest point 2.44 in a 4-point scale, the interlocutor, the other person made excuses for his or her mistakes often, meaning that North Koreans did not really come to the appointed time, and when they came late or did not even show up, when South Korean asked why, and the person never apologized and keeps saying excuses or something like that. Yeah.
The first question I do want to lead with is, what is your take on this, what's coming out of North Korea as of June? The whole idea that North Koreans getting caught speaking South Korean slang or vocabulary will face sentences. Do you think it'll be as similarly effective as when North Korea got rid of Hanja in 1949? And could you speak to any possible motivations?
I am not sure, but at least I think your question is that the current situation when North Koreans are struggling with South Korean language use, which was influenced by probably internet use or all kinds of new words or coined words or some of the abbreviated words. Are North Koreans just cut them off for not understanding them?
Yeah.
Well, if they go back to North Korea, maybe, but if they want to survive in South Korea, I guess they should live with them. And honestly, I am also struggling to understand all this internet language or newly created language or coined, whatever you call it, coined language. But again, I know that many of them will disappear, and newly created words will disappear again and again. Not all of them are really surviving for many years there. So I think North Koreans should understand that. And a lot of times when they really search for these words in Google or Naver, they can find the meaning of these newly developed words or the abbreviations very easily. I do the same thing all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I answered your question.
No, that was great background information, and we do have folks in the chat wondering, could they still be arrested if North Koreans were being heard using South Korean words? And I think you did did well answer that. Another question in the chat for us is, when did North Korea make the transition to using country names borrowed directly from the source language and not another language, as in España versus Spain? So it looks like this question is coming for when those kind of country names were developed by North Korea. Any thoughts about that?
I think it was, again, all these country names were influenced by Russia, I guess, Russian language. But when was that? I think probably because North Korea was trying to be independent right after, the Japanese colonial time. So probably around Korean War time or after, I guess. And as I mentioned, Kim Il-sung announced that North Korean language is different from South Korean language, and it's called Munhao. It was done in 1966. So probably before, around that time, it was done then, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think when North Korean and South Korean leaders, particularly Moon Jae-in and Kim Jong-un met in Panmunjom, do you think they had any trouble understanding each other back in 2018?
Well, I'm not sure whether I can talk about that, but well, linguistically, I don't think so, because I'm sure that they have top ranking translators or interpreters there. But I guess I don't know. In my personal opinion, Kim Jong-un was really thinking something totally different from U.S. president, but initially I'm not sure whether it was lost in the translation or something. They were talking and they believed that they are in the same page at the beginning. But later, I guess they gradually discovered that no, nothing is really common between them. So I don't know, honestly, I don't know what happened there. Yes.
Yeah.
And also Kim Jong-un's strategy for not just Kim Jong-un, many years, I believe that this consistency with unpredictable the actions somewhat worked for him and for Kim family. So I guess this consistency or persistent strategy, I think Kim Jong-un expected that would work with the U.S. president, but that didn't, unfortunately for him.
Yes, we all see how that turned out.
Yeah. But again, that's all my very personal opinion.
That's a definite different webinar, and we're keeping on track. But that's all good and well, and interesting subjects there. We could talk hours and hours about it, but we only have a limited amount of time. Could you speak to a little bit more about the different dialects, if you so can, spoken in like Northeast China? We're talking about like Chosuntok and things like that. Anything as far as some of the differences between North Korean and those dialects?
Well, honestly, I know that they are different, but I really did not do a lot of study on that, so I cannot really say much. Yeah. But definitely they are different. Yes.
Sounds like we need to have an upcoming add-on to the wonderful webinar.
I need to do some research.
Make it a series. Yeah.
Basically, many North Koreans and also some South Koreans moved to northern part of North Korea in late 19th century, early 20th century, because of all this political environment at that time. Some people went there forcefully, and because they are close to the North Korean North Korean territory, I bet that a lot of North Korean speakers, North Korean language speakers were there living together, and their language was heavily influenced by North Korean speakers. But at the same time, it's interesting that many of these Gyeongsangdo people from South Korea actually went to that area. At that time, some people were so poor and they tried to survive by moving to Chinese territory. And they were very poor, but they actually brought their regional dialects there. And I heard that this Gyeongsangdo dialect were kind of mixed together with North Korean dialects somewhere, and then some people are using both of them in mixed way. So that was very interesting statement I heard from someone. Yeah. So can I answer to this question? One question I captured my eyes. Someone asked why North Koreans are not using honorific as South Koreans. Well, egalitarianism, maybe, or because they believe Kim's family and Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il, Kim Il-sung, they are like God for them. So they are the only ones they need to worship, and they are the only ones that they need to really admire and show high respect. So they use these honorific forms to them only to honor this great being there. So and also in colloquial language, in colloquial Korean, when people are very close to each other, it doesn't matter how old the other person is. Many people use blunt forms anyway. So I think those separations, I think, created this no use of honorifics in daily lives.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. One of our guests, Hazel Smith, has lots of experience in North Korea. And they were wondering about the differences between Hamgyong and Pyongyang language dialects, including like the jokes. Anything you could speak to there? Particularly, it looks like they were getting work done and needed to know those differences and wanted to know more.
Well, again, I'm not really that expert in that dialect. But Hamgyong, I guess Hamgyongdo and Pyongyang. Pyongyang is the capital, which is in Pyongan-do. And I also worked with a Hamgyongdo person before, and I realized that their language is quite different in terms of intonation. And also some of the vocabulary they use are quite different from Pyongan-do. It's like in South Korea, Seoul language is very different from Gyeongsangdo language. Gyeongsangdo uses very regular intonation, and also they have many different dialectal versions of the vocabulary items. So I think it's just same thing. The Hamgyongdo dialect has a heavy accent or intonation, and I observed that Pyongyang people are really easy to adapt to use South Korean language quickly, but many Hamgyongdo people who defected to South Korea maintained their language even after 10 years of stay there, or 20 years of stay there. I think it's all the same in South Korea. The farther the place is from the standard language speakers, I think, well, the language variation maintains longer, I would say. Again, individual differences are always there, of course.
Of course. Of course. Spinning a little bit back to this law, our audience is very interested. Do you think that this law of South Koreans not being able to speak North Korean and therefore making things difficult, do you think could you speak to a little bit more about the potential impacts of this push to not use South Korean by North Korea?
You mean South Korean language is banned in North Korea?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they recently the news said that Kim Jong-un created this new law that banned South Korean language. But impact, I think
our audience consists of a lot of humanitarian workers, and so
yeah. Some people are executed for using South Korean language they learned from Korean drama, South Korean drama, and things like that. And that's really shocking news. But at the same time, does that really stop people watching South Korean dramas? No. I've watched many YouTube videos of featured by North Korean defectors, and many of them are communicating with their family members in North Korea amazingly, and people are doing it more and more. And even in villages, they have these village leaders who are really constantly putting surveillance eyes on everybody. But they also one story I heard was one girl said his father, her father is kind of the policeman in South Korea, and he is the one who visit many different people's houses and just took out all the USBs, which include all Korean dramas. And when he came home, he gave it to his children to watch them. So the young daughter who is in, I think, junior high school, she said, actually, when my father gave them to me, I watched these dramas with my friends, and I even gave copies of them to my friends. So it's like, it was very interesting story.
Yeah.
The guy collect them from the village people, but the daughter just distributed them again to other people. So I don't think this Kim Jong-un's law really stopped this kind of natural interest in things that people would like to see. Yeah, and also language really changes by itself, I would say. Language, even if some countries, even South Korean government has this, the National Institute of Korean Language, which tries to purify Korean language a lot, minimizing external influence of having so many English words in the language or so many loan words. They are trying to purify Korean language, but again, they put a lot of efforts, but it doesn't really result in the purified language at all. So even in the democratic country, it doesn't happen. Language changes by itself, I would say. Of course, there are many other factors that really makes language changes, but yeah, this cannot be stopped, I would say.
In the interest of time, I'm going to bundle together some of these other questions that are somewhat related. And I think I've got two more for you. There seems to be a general interest in what efforts are being done to bridge the linguistic gap between the Koreas. And somebody asked, when's a good time to introduce North Korean into the South Korean curriculum? And if so, is it even being done? Right. So it looks like there's some general wondering of what's being done, and if so, what's your best guess as to how it should be?
Well, maybe to answer the second question first, Honestly, I don't know, but I used to work at Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California, where we teach many different languages, including Korean. And for Korean, definitely, it was a must to teach North Korean language because that place exists because of North Korea's threat, simply speaking. So we created a curriculum to introduce North Korean language, but not until students are able to reach so-called level 2, minimum low advanced level. But definitely, in order for them to reach advanced level, they need to get challenged when they are in the intermediate level. So we start introducing North Korean language when they are finishing around second semester, meaning that they are about reach intermediate high level or so-called 1+ level. So we
And this
start
is
introducing
U.S.
it.
military students, right?
Yes, exactly. So starting from advanced level, we introduce at least about 15% of the language materials, entire language materials would be North Korean language materials. Yeah, so that's the practice I am quite familiar with. And I also agree that it's not really worth to introduce different dialectal variation in early stage because students are still working on foundation of the main language they are learning. But if you are learning Korean, if anyone is learning Korean in North Korean soil, it might be reversed. So in North Korea, if you learn Korean, definitely North Korean language, 문화어, is the basis to learn. And then after probably the student reach advanced or intermediate high level, then yes, the South Korean language probably should be introduced.
Yeah. And then last but not least, you hinted to it in your last answer. You definitely have experience with DLI, and somebody is wondering, Austin Hedrick, one of our participants for another program, is with us today. He's wondering where he can find any curriculum outside of North Korea that teaches Munhwa and Pyojun and DLI would be the source, and GLOSS, correct? No? Correct.
Yeah, GLOSS, and also DLI has developed this advanced North Korean materials, meaning that GLOSS, I think, includes all kinds of different level materials. At the same time, they have so-called advanced North Korean language material. I forgot the actual title. If that is still available there, of course, GLOSS and this North Korean materials, they are all based on authentic media materials of North Korea. And also they aim for even level 4, distinguished level in ACTFL scale, and level 4 in ILR scale. And starting from, I think GLOSS starts from 1+, whereas the advanced level material starts with 2 advanced level. Yes. So yeah, I think you can Google DLI website, and they allow you to have the access to the material, I believe.
Okay. Well, thank you for going overtime with us today. It was packed full of information and lots of things to learn and stories to be had. Dr. Kang, we just want to say thank you to you and for your time and efforts today. We will be sharing a recording of this on our YouTube channel, so do follow us on that platform as well. If you're in the audience today and interested in learning more about this topic, check us out there. Also go to our website for more information about upcoming webinars. This topic is definitely not one that we could cover in just one webinar. So do be on the lookout for another installment of what is sure to be a series specifically on this. Dr. Kang, please do send us any resources that we could send back out to the audience, because we do want to make sure that your presentation gets its time to shine. But thank you so much for your insights and the time you gave us today. Also, of course. Also, a quick shout out to my colleagues, Marissa McPherson for running tech and setup, and to Ishani Chetri for designing this promotional material for this webinar. And thank you to our audience for joining us. Do send us questions. We answered as many as we could today, but there are still some to be had. So please do send them our way and we'll be glad to answer them as soon as we can. With that, this concludes our webinar today. On behalf of the team here at NCNK, I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다, 강 교수님. Send us